Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Today we will be continuing on our journey of building a declarative agent with our ProDev tooling. In this case, it's the Microsoft 365 Agents Toolkit. And today we will be focusing on some of the advanced manifest capabilities that we can put in that really makes it just a little bit better. That makes it a little bit like where you're going to get a little bit more control on how the UX is performing and how things are happening in there. So it's going to be a lighter session today. You're going to understand why. I might not take the full 15 minutes. Usually this is a lie. I usually take all of them, but let's see how that works. So let's start. So today we're going to build these advanced manifest capabilities. And as you remember, we did 4 sessions so far. One where we're creating the persona of our agent. Then we embedded some knowledge, added some code interpreter and image generation. We did then add some SharePoint, Teams, web, email, people capabilities directly inside the agent. And last week, we talked about our API plugins and our MCP plugin. Today, we're going to polish this agent. We're going to add custom disclaimers to your agent. We're going to add some behavior overrides to have a little bit more control over how Copilot Chat shows up and how it uses the knowledge that it has access to. We're going to talk about environment files, and we're going to talk about the Agents Toolkit lifecycle commands. So first, let's talk about the disclaimers. Disclaimer is what you usually see at the bottom of every chat you have with Copilot Chat. You have the ability with Agents Toolkit to change that, to make it more personal to the agent that people are using. So for instance, you will have the ability to add a new property called disclaimer. And the disclaimer is very simple. It has text in there. And as part of this, you can add basically whatever you want in there. So based on some of your AI compliance rules and different capabilities that your organization want to put in place, you will have the ability to add a message that basically says something very specific, not only for all of Copilot, but all of the agent interactions also. In this case, I'm an AI assistant, always verify critical HR information with your HR business partner. This is not generic. This is highly compliant to the role of that HR on-buddy agent that we are building. It builds on trust and also respects your governance. So let's go and see what that looks like. So let me go here. Let me open up my declarative agent here. Let me basically zoom in so you can see it. And it's super simple. We're adding one very simple property as part of our schema here, which is a disclaimer and has text, and that's it. In this case, I'm using an agent disclaimer environment variable. We're going to come back to that, but I can show you what the content of it is, so that way you have a good idea. Here, if I go here, it's going to be basically, I'm an AI assistant, always verify critical HR information with your HR business partner. At build time, that's going to get injected directly inside the agent. So now you have the ability to add these messages. And I really advise to do it because it really builds on clarity, I believe. So now let's go and see what this looks like. Let me open up here. And now you have this HR onboarding buddy that has everything we have, our message, our different conversation starters, but also at the bottom. And now let me zoom in just so we see it as best as we can. Always verify critical HR information with your HR business partner. It is critical, but it's in there. So now, if you really want to do this, we really highly advise you to do that right there. And that is one way to really have that really rich experience right there. So that's number one thing that I wanted to share with you today. Let's go back to slides just for a quick bit. Now let's talk about the behavior overrides. Behavior overrides will give you more control over, I would say, over the model and over the behavior of Copilot Chat. So in this case, you're going to have the ability to control two new properties. One of them is suggestions. By default, this is true. This is the value here is set to true. But what does it mean? It means that you want to enable or disable what we call the next turn suggestions. If you've ever seen at the bottom of an agent, you're always going to have like 3 pills that will suggest the next move for the end user of your agent. You can disable that. Maybe you want to have a really strict control over the experience, and that's how you want to do that. So maybe as part of your response back to the user, you want to add, next, you should type this, instead of having the pills automatically embedded there. Other thing, and that is one thing that has been highly requested, it's around our special instructions around discouraging model knowledge. It's basically to lower the hallucination rates when you're having grounding data. Think about this. You have data in a SharePoint site, our HR policy in our case. But you want to make sure that it's not mixed with what the model knows about. You want to make sure that every single thing is coming from the grounding and not from the training data that lives inside our GPT models. And here you have the ability to set that to true. In this case, it's going to really, really augment the quality of the answers of your agent, because it will really, it will basically focus on making sure, creating a harness around the answer that should not leak any model knowledge information. So let me show you what these two things mean in this case. So first, I have this here, and that's a very good example. So earlier I asked, what is the dress code? I do not have anything about the dress code in my employee handbook. So in a scenario, it could just go on and invent that this organization is like suit. You need to wear a suit every time you come to the office. So it's not how you want that. You want to make sure it's grounded on the data that lives in the document, and the document says nothing about it. So it's very clear. There isn't a formal standalone dress code policy at Zava. It does not define a specific attire. And based on this information, it does suggest some things, but always keeping in mind what the grounding information is about in the employee handbook. In this case, I think we're really increasing the quality of the answer, because it just not go off and create something that HR would not want to land inside their agent. They want to make sure they do control the message. And in this case, I think it's a great example. Then second thing I wanted to show is at the end. Usually here, we will see some pills right there at the bottom. Like if I go here and I ask, look, what is my PTO? This actually is a very wild example I'm doing right now, because I don't even know if this agent is wired up to something. It might fail, and that is absolutely okay. You're going to see it's going to work. And at the end, it should actually show me a couple of pills. You see here, these 3 different pills that were created. Well, when I go to my HR onboarding buddy and I ask for what's my first week checklist, you're going to see at the end that it is not going to show up. We're not going to see any of that at the bottom, because we disabled them. If I go to my declarative agent here and I look at the behavior override, I see that they are disabled and that we are forcing the model knowledge to be discouraged in this case. So that's really how we're thinking about giving you more hooks into the AI generation that happens around your agent, but just not within the agent. So if I go here, should not lie, and you're not going to see any pills show up at the end. Great. Now let's go back to some slides here. Let's talk a little bit about environment variables. As you're getting closer to getting this agent into production, you will want to use different environments, maybe different sites based on the audience, or different even tenants here. And that's where we really believe that environment variables are awesome. First, all of the properties in the manifest can support different environment variables. For instance, here in my URL, I'm not using a strong URL here. I'm using an environment variable. So depending on which environment I'm targeting, this value could change. So that is super powerful. Different API endpoints, different values, and so on. You're also able to use our .user files, where you can put in some secrets. These files are not being committed anywhere, but we're using them. For instance, when you have an API plugin that uses maybe a client ID and a client secret, we're going to be able to put the client secret in there, and we're going to automatically do the registration onto the developer portal with these configs. So use these environment files. I've been using them pretty much everywhere where you have them on all of my URLs. I used it earlier into my text here. I could have had my description to use it. It's really up to you to decide where you're using them and how to do that. Super simple. You just need to have a file for env.dev and env.local. And all of them, when you're going to deploy, you're going to hit provision here. It's going to ask you, where do you want to deploy, dev or local? And then it's going to keep all that information within this, and will select the right environment for you. So really powerful trick when you're using more complex deployments. I highly advise to use these environment files. Finally, lifecycle commands. We want to be able to provide you the best build system that you can find. When you're building an agent, it uses a series of different capabilities that are hooked up into one file called the m365agents.local.yaml file. And here you're going to see, you're going to have, hey, I want to zip the package, and afterwards I want to update the package, and then I want to add this package to M365, so on and so forth. Those are built-in lifecycle events happening inside the experience right here. But what you can do here is to provide your own. And this is really cool. Why? Because it provides you the ability to maybe validate stuff, ping an API to get some values and embed it inside an environment variable. Or what I'm doing, and I'm going to share with you an example, is I like to have a link to my agent every single time I build. So I'm using a custom shell command to actually do that. And you can do either bash, node, you can even provide your own script, your own JS file, and just execute it. It's extremely powerful, and you can even use your values from your environment files as part of the lifecycle hooks that exist in here. So for example, I'm going to show you what I did here. Is at the end of every single provisioning, I do have a post-provision log where I just say, we just provisioned this, and you can view it in M365 Copilot, so with a deep link, but also with a deep link to the developer portal. So I'm lazy. I love clicking on links if I can avoid searching for them, and that really gives me that full experience. So now, if I go back here, you're going to see that the last time it ran, I saw that I provisioned my onboarding local file at this specific time to view in M365 Copilot with the link, and to view in the developer portal. So for instance, if I, let me just copy the link because I have too many browsers and the click might actually give me to a wrong one. I'm just going to go here, and it did copy just the HTTPS, which was not exactly what I was looking for. Let me do that. It's like it doesn't want to do what I'm trying to do. It should like this. Go here. Now I have my developer portal directly deep link into the app that I built earlier. So if I want to change things and so on, that will happen right there. So just to recap, let me close that guy here. Just to recap today, we've went from having a very, very small, simple agent to all orchestrated, multiple capabilities. We did make sure that it was always focusing on the grounding data and not on the underlying model knowledge. And we were able to kind of create that 5-session journey right now. If you want to go, you can test that up already. You can go and check into the repo where we're at. And the next session, we're going to talk about expanding that to multiple agents. How can you create an ecosystem of agents and connecting to agents from your agents to create agent-to-agent scenarios? For now, I invite you to go and check on the repo to follow along.